Good morning, Irene.
Good morning.
Hey, YouTube friends. I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
And we're Brainstorm Acres, and today we're going to talk about a special day for the two of us. Saturday was our
46th
anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I hadn't planned to work Saturday at all.
It sounds odd, but what the heck else are you going to do? We're not going anywhere.
No, we weren't going anywhere for sure.
And nobody's going to come visit us because everybody else is hunkered down somewhere too.
Yeah, besides, we're way off in BFE.
Yeah, that's right. So we decided that we would try and get some stuff done, but then still take off a little time. We did goof off a little watching some videos and stuff.
Yeah, so we did that. Now, do you remember when I proposed to you?
Oh, of course. Of course, we were camping. He decided that I couldn't run away if we were camping.
Well, you could. It's just going to be a really long run.
Yeah, really.
Do you remember when that was?
It's decades ago, literally. We met working in the cafeteria, slinging hash, scraping plates. Very romantic.
Armpit deep in refuse.
Refuse, yes. Feeding Boris the garbage disposal.
And Melvin,
the garbage disposal. And serving food on the line. I used to work the line a lot.
It's really great because we really got some time to spend some time outside of the dining hall at a sock hop.
Right. Well, we should mention that I was dating someone else when we met.
Someone else who was a whole lot taller. We got engaged in October of 1973.
Mm-hmm.
You were a junior. I was a freshman. We were in college, of course.
Actually, I was not a junior.
No, you were a junior.
I was actually a senior.
Oh, you were a semester ahead?
No, I senior year is 73, 74.
Yeah, but we
me.
met. It was. Yeah, as a matter of fact,
We met the previous year.
We met the previous year when you were a junior.
Yes.
And
I was dating.
And you sent me a letter over the summer asking if I was going back to Furman. We went to Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina, and you sent me a letter asking if I was going back to Furman.
Well, and if he was going back early, because if you worked in the cafeteria, you came in early.
Yeah, so I wrote back, and then I asked you what flight you were on, and yes, I was going to be flying back as well. You told me what the flights were, so I changed my flight so that we'd be on the same flight going from Charlotte to
Greenville.
Spartanburg,
Yeah.
Greenville Spartanburg Airport.
Yep.
And we met on the plane and haven't stopped seeing each other since.
No matter how hard I run away. No.
Yeah, so we got married in the spring of 1974.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first people to get married in Furman's formal rose garden.
Right.
It was really quite a scene trying to get approval to be married in that rose garden.
Yeah, nobody had ever done it before, and they didn't even know who to ask. We went to the closest building to that, because it was between the cafeteria and the student union building, and it was brick paths, and a fountain, and a whole bunch of patented roses. And tea roses. We went to the student union building, figuring they would have knowledge of whom.
So I went to the head of the student union building, the person who's actually responsible for the entire building and its grounds, and asked him if we could get married in the rose garden. And he said, "The rose garden?" I said, "Well, yeah, the rose garden is between here and the dining hall." And he said, "It's not my grounds. I don't know. I don't know."
Well, who's in charge of it?
I
don't
don't know.
So somebody was in charge, but it was hysterical trying to track down who was in charge.
Well, it was more than hysterical. Then it was Mr. Banton, who was the head of the dining facilities.
Right.
And asked him, he's a retired Air Force officer.
Right.
And I asked him, could we use the rose garden? He said, what do you mean use the rose garden? And I said, well, we'd like to get married in the rose garden. I said, you know where the fountain is and the circle is and all those roses are? Could we use that? And he said, well, I can't give you permission for that.
Because that's not mine. I'm just the cafeteria. So there was this never land between the cafeteria and the Student Union building.
But he was perfectly nice about it, and he said, I don't know who's responsible for it, but I'll find out. No one's ever asked if we could do that.
Right, and we understand now that it is an extremely popular place to get married and books up years ahead of time.
Do you remember why we ended up using the rose garden?
Well, yeah, we attended the Lutheran Cathedral in Greenville, but and because we were members, we could use it for free.
Well, partially for free. We still had to pay for the time and for us as students,
right.
Really an exorbitant fee
right.
for
Well,
the
and
services.
the problem was you had to buy the flowers. Well, for a full-size cathedral, 5 times larger than your average church.
It was huge, and the problem with the requirement of decorating the church with flowers was that the flowers had to be left. All of them had to be left. And the church had a huge say in what style and kind of flowers you could use, and it had to be done by professional florists.
It didn't make any sense, so we had to find another location that made sense. And it was going to be a small wedding anyway. It didn't make sense to have you're going to have maybe 30 people there. It doesn't make sense to have a church that would seat 1,000,
Yeah, we actually had a lot more than 30 people. The rose garden itself was, as Irene said, sunken down, and I would guess it's maybe 8 to 10 feet below the surface level on the non-lake side. The garden was in between a man-made lake and the natural land level where all the other buildings were. So it was about 8 or 10 feet lower. We figured, well, we'd have about 30 friends come to the wedding.
All the people from the cafeteria came because they all know. No, they beat us to death with rice, by the way. I think they threw an entire 40-pound bag of rice at us.
I'm pretty sure it was a 40, 50-pound bag of rice.
We found rice for months.
We got the car after a lot of back and forth and
well,
discussing.
they said if you can leave a $500 deposit, which was, in those days, a lot of money.
It was a huge amount of money.
We were working for $1.40 an hour at the cafeteria.
Right.
So yeah, it takes a long time to make do $500 at $1.40 an hour.
So we left them the money and we drove to Socorro and we stayed where for our honeymoon?
Yeah, the location in they knew we were coming, and the location in married student housing that we were supposed to be in was not ready yet.
It was supposed to be ready.
It was supposed to be ready, but there'd been some sort of a fumble, as often happens with larger institutions. So they put us up in a regular dorm room.
With 2 single beds pushed together.
They were
not
different
the
heights.
same height.
Yeah, they were about 3 inches different, as I recall.
And then we found a place to live in Marshall, Virginia.
Out in the sticks.
It was
way nicer.
It was way in the middle of sticks. We leased a place of 450 acres with a 2-bedroom concrete block cabin on it.
That was attached to the original log cabin that was 100 years old.
It was really great. I loved that place. We were back out in the woods. We had about a 200-yard walk to a pond that was dammed up. We used to
and
go
it was
down,
stocked with fish. It was awesome.
we used to go down and catch fish and
have a big fish fry. Yeah.
The first heartbreak was we were talking to some property owners in New Mexico about purchasing their farm right on the Rio Grande River. And we had a handshake deal, and unfortunately the children and grandchildren interceded and said, no, we can make a lot more money. This is
right.
This is
and
silly.
see, the thing was the grandparents wanted the farm to stay a farm, and they knew that that's what we wanted. There was an adobe house with a few beat up outbuildings that we could have fixed up. They had goats and chickens and all that kind of stuff in that section, and then there was a 40-acre plot that was associated with it that was closer to the Rio Grande that had irrigation.
So that was a heartbreak for us because it was close to the university where I could finish my degree. So we had gardens most every place we lived. Sometimes small. In Socorro, we had a spot that was about 3 by 6 feet or something.
Well, it depends on which house you're talking about.
By the first place we lived, the second.
Yeah, that
place
was just a strip along the side of the house. That you could
but
do.
you grew some really hot peppers there.
Yeah, and I grew lots of squash there.
Marshall was really good because we were able to have more farm-like things. And we were prepared to have a lot more in the spring. We just survived a really hard winter with an awful lot of snow for the area. And then we moved to California. Our lifestyle turned into, I worked during the day, sometimes long hours, sometimes less long hours. But you always tried to have the outside work done at the house so that on the weekend we could go do other things. And so we'd go to county parks, we'd go down to the beach, we'd go to the wharf and crab fish early in the morning. There's a lot of things like that we'd do together as a family. We moved from Massachusetts to California. We purchased some property in the mountains in Santa Cruz County. We started the development. We spent 3 years and $85,000 in soft cost to get building permits to build.
And we were working on plans with an architect and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we had a well that we shared with a neighbor. We had a deeded portion of that well, and he and I worked on getting the well upgraded so that we'd be able to have the water. We had a lot of the basic groundwork done. We were ready to start construction. Because of the cost in California, we had to have a construction loan. We were in the middle of getting that loan, and my job went away because of the carpal tunnel. And
then we had to sue the company in order to get them to honor your severance package.
Yeah, and we had to sell the property. And we decided, once my carpal tunnel surgery was done, that we needed to find another place to move to. A lot of times in our married life, you worked really hard during the week. In fact, when we lived in San Jose, I think the first or second house we lived in, while I was at work, you changed the radiator in one of our cars.
Yeah, well, I mean, the radiator on the old Chevy died, and he had a auto parts place drop off a radiator at the house, and I changed the radiator.
I planned to change the radiator when it got home from work.
Hey, the kid was taking a nap. Let's take advantage of this.
I think an awful lot of our married life has been us figuring out how to work together separately so that I was keeping money coming in so we keep a roof over our head. You were busy taking care of the kids and doing gardening and doing light repairs around the house, so that we had the weekends to really go enjoy as a family. And
and when he would go away on a business trip, he never knew what he was going to come back to, because like when I renovated the bathroom at that house in San Jose, I did it while he was gone because we only had 2 bathrooms in the house. We had 2 kids plus 2 adults, and he had a tight schedule in terms of getting to work and stuff like that. So it made sense to renovate the main bathroom and let the kids use our bathroom while he was out of town. So he came back to a rebuilt bathroom. I completely redid the sink plumbing and all that kind of stuff in there while you were gone.
I sometimes come back to completely different color walls or wallpaper that had been stripped off. Sometimes I got to even help with the wallpaper stripping, but more often than not...
Well, you got to help with wallpaper. You stripped a lot of wallpaper when we lived in Massachusetts.
We both love to garden. Is that a lot of our gardening spots are relatively small. So although I like to plant things out, there's not really space for 2 people to be in an area. Because,
well, it's like the other day when I was planting tomatoes. You were handing me pots of soil. That was perfect.
Yeah.
You can't. If you put 2 people in there, you'd start breaking plants.
And no, it's not so much breaking plants. It's me getting broken because
Because I whacked him on the head with a trowel, right?
you're dangerous with a trowel. No, because an awful lot of it is that we do have different working styles. We mostly respect each other's working styles. We don't get too frustrated too often most of the time. Oh, come on, you can admit it. But somehow we continue to
Not
soldier
kill one
on.
another.
Yeah, well, I'm not dead yet.
Uh-huh.
So what else about me marrying for 46 years?
We both love to cook. Real cook. Not what I call assembly cooking, where you take a can of Campbell's soup and you take a package of this and you take a package of that. No, we cook from scratch. We were going to start canning our own black beans because we wanted to experiment with them. We like to, on no notice, have black beans to use in burritos and other things. The brand that we had been using, which had been reliable for years, had become unreliable. Well, we've meandered. This was supposed to be a brief, succinct, what we were doing this weekend. What we were doing this weekend was Henry made, our daughter sent us some steaks, prime cut steaks, and Henry made them Saturday night, some fillets, along with some fresh asparagus from the garden, and a cauliflower that he managed to scrape up at the grocery store the other day. That was good looking. One
of the few vegetables we buy.
Yeah, and some other bits and pieces that was very delicious, and then. Dessert was pound cake, some rhubarb compote, and whipped cream. Gotta have the whipped cream.
Yeah, well, for our anniversary, I had the calories taken out of the whipped cream.
That's right. He's very considerate that way. So, that's what we were doing Saturday night, was that and laying on the sofa watching videos. Because we earned it.
Thanks very much for watching. I've got one heck of an editing job ahead of me.
Every time he'd ask another question, I'm thinking, oh dear, you're going to be editing all day.
And that's okay. There's a lot about our married life to share. We've not even skimmed over the surface.
Oh, no, we've lived everywhere. In every major climate zone in the United States.
Except for?
South Florida is warmer than we've ever lived.
And? Northern Alaska.
Yes.
So those are the only two areas that we really haven't lived in.
Right.
Look, thanks very much for bearing with us as we prattle on. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And hit the bell for notifications because we've got more from 46 years to share. And more that was going on right now.
Honey, you'll scare off the subscribers. Until next time, have a great week. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.